This week we begin the transition into a new and safer way of operating, and we can do so with confidence. That's because we've come through the past 2 years of COVID in better shape than many other places in the world. We have had amongst the lowest case rates, hospitalisations and death rates in the OECD. Where many other places saw their life expectancy shortened, ours is amongst 3 where it has increased. As we head into the next phase, we do so with amongst the highest vaccination levels against COVID-19 too. The past 3 months have been hard though, the hardest perhaps we've faced in the pandemic so far, but the sacrifice of so many has had an enormous impact. We've avoided the exponential increase of cases that we saw in Sydney and Melbourne. We have dramatically increased vaccination rates, and we've done so with good spread across the country. But that does not mean it's time to lift all restrictions as some countries have. We want to implement a system that will serve us well and last the distance. The alert levels did that for 20 months. Now it's time for the COVID protection framework, or the traffic lights, to do the heavy lifting. This new system does not represent a considerable loosening of protections. What it does mean is using everything we have learned so far and the tools we know make a difference. It's careful and it's cautious, but it also gives greater certainty to businesses. I can confirm the following regions will move in at red this Friday: Northland, Auckland, Taupo and Rotorua Lakes districts, Kawerau, Whakatane and Oporiki districts, Gisborne district, Wairoa district, Rangitikei, Whanganui and Ruapehu districts. The rest of the North Island will move in at orange. The whole of the South Island will also move in at orange. These settings will be in place for the next 2 weeks. Cabinet will review settings again and provide an update before the summer break on Monday, the 13th of December. We'll then hold for roughly a month to allow us to see the impact of the shift and allow the settings to bed in. They'll then be reviewed again in the week of Monday, the 17th of January. From there, we'll get into a regular routine of reviewing settings on a fortnightly basis. But now that we've set where districts will enter, what do they each mean? There are 3 key things to remember at every colour setting. 1, download your vaccine pass and have it ready to use so you can keep going to your favourite places. 2, take your mask wherever you go and be ready to wear it. And 3, just like before, scan in wherever you go. So it's mask, scan and pass. At orange, the big change here for parts of the country that will enter into this setting is that for the vaccinated and where vaccine passes are used, there are no gathering limits. People can gather again safely. At red, it will feel a lot like level 2. Your vaccine pass lets you go everywhere, but number limits of 100 will apply to most activities. And importantly, because I know this is a question many Aucklanders have, you can now see family and friends again in their homes and use the bathroom inside. Luxury. If you are unvaccinated, you can gather with others, but the gathering limits are lower across each of the levels. So as you can see, for the vast majority of New Zealanders with your My Vaccine Pass, life will feel a lot like it did before. For the unvaccinated, it will be more restricted. That is the best way that we can ensure that the unvaccinated are protected too. For more general information on the framework, head to the Unite Against COVID-19 website at covid19.govt.nz. Advice for Business is live on business.govt.nz. We also want to make sure that we answer any question that business may have as quickly as we can. Please, if you have a question, do call 0800 424 946. Having a vaccine pass is key under the framework, so if you haven't got yours yet, go to mycovidrecord.health.nz or you can phone 0800 222 478 to request a physical copy. We know that there are some who don't have the ability to access their pass online. If you or anyone you know needs support, you can, as well as calling the 0800 number, also visit a pharmacy that is currently offering vaccines. These same pharmacies will be able to print out your COVID pass for you. Vaccination rates are one of the key factors we considered when setting a region's colour in the new traffic light system. But we also considered the following: capacity of the health and disability system in a region, testing, contact tracing and case management capabilities, transmission of COVID-19 within the community, the number of cases in regions and how they're spreading, and the impact the virus might have on vulnerable populations. As we step into the framework for the first time, the way we use this criteria has been different to the way that we will apply it in the future. We have been cautious, and that's because we want to carefully transition without seeing cases take off. With this initial designation, a key consideration has been vaccination levels. All of the districts listed today have done an amazing job reaching into their communities, but still have double dose rates in the 70% range for the eligible population. We know the higher the vaccination levels, the greater protection. Our hope is that we will continue to see a lift in rates over the next fortnight when we come to consider settings again in a few weeks. At this stage, we have no cases of the Omicron variant in New Zealand, but the developing global situation shows us why our approach of ongoing caution at the border is needed. Over the weekend, we took immediate steps to designate 9 countries as very high risk, restricting the people who can travel to New Zealand to citizens only, and requiring them to stay in MIQ for the full 14 days and undergo 5 tests over that time. Omicron is a reminder of why we need a response that lasts and carries us through this pandemic. Some countries have had to close borders or stand up quarantine facilities again. We already had a strong system in place and the ability to move swiftly to make it stronger still. This is a reminder of the risk that still exists at our border. We are not powerless, though. There is a lot of evidence that needs to be gathered yet before we'll know the full impact of this variant. Already you can see that the international community is working closely and quickly to determine what risk this variant poses. It may impact on our vaccines, but it may not. It may be more severe, or it may be more mild than Delta. We simply do not know yet. So the most important thing we can do is, firstly, use our border system to try and stop cases from entering the community, and we're doing that. Use public health settings as an extra layer of protection, which is exactly what the COVID protection framework does. And finally, keep vaccinating. To that end, Omicron has not changed the advice on boosters, which are now available to anyone 6 months or more past their second dose. To keep it simple, boosters are available to everyone, but we're especially keen to see our border and health workers receiving this additional protection and those who may be more vulnerable, like our over 65-year-olds. I encourage you to book today or visit one of our many vaccination sites. Finally, as we enter this next phase in our response to COVID, I want to say thank you. Every New Zealander has played a part in our world-leading response. A year and a half ago, as we moved out of our first lockdown, I liken that point in our COVID journey as being halfway down Everest, knowing we had to keep moving safely through a perilous descent. And it has been perilous. After a sustained period of being open, the Delta variant finally arrived. No country it has entered has been able to get rid of it so far, and it now accounts for 99.7% of all cases worldwide. And so while it hasn't been possible to eliminate Delta this time, New Zealand did something truly remarkable in managing to keep Delta suppressed while we got our population vaccinated, getting 2.2 million people vaccinated in just the past 100 days. There are 160,889 Kiwis now due for a second dose. If everyone got it this week, we would be at 89.3% fully vaccinated. That would be remarkable and such a gift to the team of 5 million. And so finally, as we enter the next phase, the same thing that was important 2 years ago remains so still. Please be kind. Be kind to yourself. It's been a hard and stressful year. Be kind to each other. Everyone, and I mean everyone, is doing their best. There will be challenges ahead. We'll continue to see cases and in places we haven't so far. But we will get through, just like we did last time, and just like we will this time. Together.
Firstly, I want to acknowledge that this outbreak has been hard on businesses and workers around the country, and in particular in Auckland, Waikato and Northland. Operating with the restrictions in place under the alert level system has been tough, but those restrictions have helped keep the outbreak under control, and I want to thank everyone for their support in this. The government has provided more than $6 billion of support to businesses since the 17th of August through the wage subsidy and resurgent support payments. As we move into the new traffic light system, almost all businesses will now be able to operate, but the government is aware that some support may still be needed as we transition into that framework. That's why Cabinet has agreed to a new transition payment for affected businesses, which will be mostly those in Auckland, Waikato and Northland. The one-off transition payment will be activated through the resurgence support payment system using the same criteria and will be available from December the 10th. The period to assess affected revenue will be between the 3rd of October and the 9th of November 2021. This covers a period when Northland, Auckland and Waikato were all on alert level 3 at various points. The payment is at a higher per business rate than the current RSP, which will be $4,000, plus $400 per FTE, up to a maximum of 50 FTEs, and therefore a maximum payment of $24,000. The Treasury has estimated that the likely total cost of this payment will be between $350 and $490 million. As I said last month when we announced the framework, we are moving away from the broad-based economic supports such as the wage subsidy scheme and the resurgent support payment that have been provided under the alert level system. This is because at all levels of the new framework, most businesses will be able to operate. It is worth noting that this transition payment is in addition to the final wage subsidy and resurgent support payments, which opened for application on Friday. These will continue to be open for application and will still pay out even though we are moving to the new framework and even though a small amount of the period for the revenue drop for them will be under the new framework. As we move through the transition period, we will monitor any economic impacts that the system is having on businesses, and I'll report back to Cabinet in early 2022 on this and make recommendations for any further support as is necessary. To be clear about this, if it is deemed that there is further necessary targeted support, it would only be available under the red setting of the new system. As we indicated in October, under orange and green, we will not be providing the widespread economic supports that we have in the past. That is beyond the leave support scheme and the short-term absence payment. On those, I can confirm that they will be available to support those who need to self-isolate, including when waiting for test results, as they do now at every level of the new framework. We are refining the system for these payments, including moving to a weekly basis for calculation, reflecting the new isolation periods. Before the end of the year, we will also confirm the support that will be available in the event of any localised lockdowns. As we assess the impact of the framework, we remain aware that there are particular sectors that continue to be impacted by COVID-19. It's worth noting that the Small Business Cash Flow Loan Scheme remains in operation, and we are looking again at whether it needs to be tweaked to provide appropriate support going forward. In terms of other support, the $60 million package for business advice and mental health support to help Auckland businesses through this transition period that we announced late last month is being rolled out. And as we have previously stated, if the business advice elements of this package are oversubscribed, we will look to expand it to meet demand. Finally, I want to note that the Activate Tamaki Makaurau website was launched on November 17th, providing information and links to business supports. We have been in discussion with Auckland businesses and their representatives and the Auckland Council about this program, and we will have more to say later in the week about how we can support it.